Moi je m'appelle Callum, je suis arrivé au Calais.
Hey everyone!
No, we can, we got it.
Yeah, we can. Here's Miss now. Look at this. This is the first time every single person's been up at 6 o'clock in the morning and out and raring to go.
We were up at 5:15.
Yeah, so was I.
I was trying to find out my
back. I've forgotten just how terrifying this was, but wonderful to see so many people here today. It's very, very special. It's the first proper ceremony after COVID, so it's particularly special. It's also special for other reasons, and I'm just going to read from my notes here because I just want to get some things over. So we especially welcome our distinguished French guests, Madame Sophia, Franco Valle, and others. All of them welcome our distinguished German friends as well. Ewald and his party, first time for 3 years now. Ever so nice to see you. We have a special guest as well from Germany, Klaus Lutule, there, who will lay a wreath for his grandfather, Karl Orsinger. So he's come especially from Baden-Baden to be with us today. We have guests from Holland, and we have a family from the United States who will be laying a wreath as well. Lochnagar is an unusual memorial in that it commemorates those of all nations who suffered in the Great War and actively seeks to bring people together in a healing spirit of peace, goodwill and reconciliation. The Lochnagar Crater is also said to be the bloodiest square mile on the Western Front.
England, Germany and France. So here representing the twinning committee, the Committee Jumelage de Meaux, the wonderful town there, invite them up to lay a wreath. A lot of wreaths and beautiful hortensia flowers. And also part of the Never Forget project, have laying some again beautiful flowers here.
C'est les animaux. Des signalements, ça m'étonnerait.
Bob Sheridan and his team at Forget Never do extraordinary work in bringing young people together from the three countries, and were also prime movers behind the Empty Chair project, of which you can see the other side. They're very, very special, with such a heart for bringing young people, for the next generation to come and honour what would have been ancestors to them, because they would have never have known anyone. But anyway, thank you particularly to all of those who do.
Why would we live your cake print?
You want to tell us what you do know, if you know anything?
Nothing, I don't know anything.
Yeah,
From my dad's side of the family, that's
you
it.
don't know if it's a great uncle?
No.
No?
Nothing.
Just that he's a relative.
Yeah. I'll try and fly out tonight. So just put it on. Thank you, guys.
Firstly, you'll have noticed the difference between the two cemeteries. This one is a lot more plain, and in part that is down to funding. The German War Graves Commission isn't funded in the same way that the British is. The British one is funded by the British government, along with contributions from the countries of the Commonwealth, so Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa and India, and it's a government body. The German War Graves Commission is a charity, so it cannot guarantee the same level of funding. This was before they even had the worries about Eastern Europe. It was still an underfunded organisation. They decided that they would put in either metal or stone grave markers, so you see both patterns, and they would put them in at the rate of 1 per either 2 or 4 burials, or sometimes even more. That way they don't need to spend the money on as many grave markers. In this case it's cut down to a quarter of the number they would have needed, and having them in neat rows like that means it's a lot easier for maintenance. You can run up and down with the mowers and get round the stones, the crosses rather. Now, in amongst these crosses you will see stone grave markers. They are commemorating Jewish casualties who fought in the German army during the First World War. And obviously the cross is not suitable for somebody of the Jewish faith, so they have a separate marker with the Star of David on it. Anybody got any questions about this? Yes? They, as far as I'm aware, were extra bodies that were buried here before the wooden markers were removed. So they slotted them in between the other rows and put in flat stone markers. Many of the dead here were brought in many years after they died, and especially with the later additions, you would just be burying a skeleton, which doesn't necessarily need a full-size coffin. You can bury them in a box. It's about 55 centimetres by 35, I believe, is the standard size, covering the longest bone in a human body, which is the, whatever that one is. Femur. There we go.
So obviously somebody from the family knew something somewhere, sometime. So here we are, Ernst Wurzelberg, who has a relative, young boy, just older than you, 17 years old, Theo. He brought us here a couple of years back and laid a cross here. So on behalf of the population of Heiligen House, okay, we're now going to let you lay your... Have we got this, Liam? Where are you?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Okay.
In remembrance of all those who have suffered in conflict,
and of those who are suffering still, may we live our lives
with more compassion and kindness, understanding and forgiveness, reconciliation and unity.
Let us now, in their honour, wage peace.
Let us not look back in anger, but forward with hope.
En souvenir de tous ceux qui ont souffert dans un conflit et de ceux qui souffrent encore, puissions-nous vivre nos vies aujourd'hui avec plus de compassion et de gentillesse, de compréhension et de pardon, de réconciliation et d'unité. Faites-le nous savoir maintenant en l'honneur. Faites la paix.
In Erinnerung an all diejenigen, die infolge von Auseinandersetzungen gelitten haben, und im Gedenken an die, die immer noch Leid erfahren und ertragen, wollen wir unser zukünftiges Leben erfüllen mit mehr Mitgefühl und Barmherzigkeit, mehr Verständnis und Vergebung, mehr Versöhnung und Einigkeit. Ihnen zu Ehren, lasst uns Frieden bewahren.
Remembering the fallen on the Somme 1916, from Basildon, John English, William Revening.
From Billericay, Herbert Smith, James Raymond, Neil Dawson, George Smith, Charles Walden, William Copeland, Walter Dodd, John Richardson and John Merriweather.
From Leyden, Edward Bright,
Frank Black, William Jarvis, James Kirby, John Mulder, Herbert Nicol and Edward Price.
From Whitford, Richard Bartlett, William Green, Richard Hurd, Leonardo Smith, Herbert Franklin and Albert Cox.
Remembering the fallen of Somme2016 from Pitsea, George Bailey and William Gallant.
From Vange, Joseph Clark, John Clark, Albert Garrod, Frederick Hiscott, Edward Jiggins, Frederick Ross.
En souvenir des disparus de la Somme en 1916. Émile Dio, Roland Duru, Daniel Dubarle, Paul Bouzinot,
Marine Scandas, Maurice Denis,
Maurice Tartier, André Jarry.
In Erinnerung an die Gefallenen am Somme 1916
aus Heiligenhaus.
Ernest Lützelburg, Karl Ochel,
Alfred Schüttler,
Erich Heidemann,
Wilhelm Herrenbrück,
Friedrich Dörrenhaus,
Adolf Feldmann,
Peter Grashaus.
Callum! What do they want?
The girls want to talk to you. Yeah, they do. Go and say hello.
I'm not talking to girls. They're girls. Everyone happy this end, Thomas? What, have you any comment to make?
What, on the food?
What, anything?
Yeah, the food was nice.
Food was nice, good. Yeah, had a good day?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's fun.
Good. Excellent. Thank you. How's things going on here? You all happy? Have you all had enough to eat?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you waiting for dessert?
Yeah.
What? Crepes? Ice cream?
Ice cream.
Right. What about the gentleman here? Are you all happy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I got my chocolate mousse.
Oh what? Oh, a chocolate. Oh, mousse. Yeah.
I'm waiting for my crepes and they're going to have to do
And then we have some more ladies down here. They look reasonably happy.
I'm sure I can do in between.
Hello, Oliver.
Hello.
Having a good time?
Yeah, it's really good. Very interesting.
Yes? Very interesting, is
Yeah.
it?
The Commonwealth War Graves Commission looks after 23,000 different locations. There's 1.7 million service personnel who died in both the First and Second World War, who we commemorate. And it's the work of the Commission that maintains places like this, cemeteries, the Menin Gate, I heard somebody talking about. So yeah, it's quite important that that continues. So, yeah, so we're funded by 6 member governments. Each of them put in a certain amount depending on how many service personnel we look after. That pays for the gardeners. You've got teams based here, you've got teams based at other cemeteries. So we're in 150 countries. So the work of the Commission started 1917.
Will be on a memorial behind us. So the memorial itself was designed with 3 purposes. If you can, there you can see the French and the British flag up there. So firstly, as a symbol of the French-British alliance. Secondly, as a monument to the Battle of the Somme itself. And thirdly, and probably most importantly, as a memorial to those 72,000 British and South Africans who have no known grave. He was born in 1895 in Peterborough in Northamptonshire. A few weeks after the outbreak of the war, he joined up in the army, and he was in the 1st Battalion of the Northamptonshire Regiment. So on his headstone here, it says Northamptonshire Regiment, and it shows his cap badge, which is of the Northamptonshire Regiment. So on the 23rd of July 1916, his battalion was attacking just northeast of Contalmaison, so not that far away from here. And unfortunately he was killed during the attack. Up until 1932, which was when this cemetery was created, so casualties were brought from the surrounding areas and finally laid to rest here. He had no known grave and no one knew where he was buried, so he was listed as missing on the memorial just behind him. Go in front.
If you look around, this gives you an idea of just how many guys had their own grave at the end of the war. So all of you will have mums and dads, brothers, sisters. You don't have husbands and wives yet, but so all of them would have had a lot of people connected. So if you imagine just this group, maybe the loss of these guys, ends up right at the bottom, and all the way along from the trees to the left there. Further up left is the front lines of the British. So that's where we were coming up from, and onto the Road there was 26 machine guns, so it gives you an idea of just how vicious the fight could have been. So we're currently standing with a view of the German defenders we had the 1st of July. I don't know how well you know the 1st of July, but it was quite vicious. There was a lot of casualties. The limited successes, there was some of the lights that went out over there. There was some Scottish units got into there. Here it was a disaster. There was the Northumberland Fusiliers who were attempting to take here and didn't succeed, obviously. But yes, yeah, so it gives you an idea of. It doesn't feel like you're on. We'll get there, get a picture.
Actually on the east coast. So it's an island on the east coast of Canada. It's actually quite a big island. It's about the size of England. During the First World War, the population was about 242,000. So not very big. To put that in perspective, the population there today is about 500,000. So being on an island, what do you think the main industries would be?
Fishing.
Fishing. So exactly, a lot of fishing would happen on this island. Also a lot of woodworking as well. So these were very young male-dominated things. So the First World War had a big impact on them.
Genauso, die sind dann da hochgekrabbelt und haben sich dann da oben hingelegt. Und da aus angeschlossen.
Aber du hast, wenn das hier ganz viel
As you can imagine, there would have sometimes been telephone wires run through the bottom of these trenches, but they were very easily blown up by shells, or if any time any of the German forces went in, they would obviously cut them as soon as they saw them. So there was men who were runners, but this was a very, very dangerous job. About how long on average do you think the lifespan of a runner was?
2 seconds.
It was actually about 2 weeks, so this is quite short, but one of the reasons is they actually wore an armband. The reason they did this is so the men in the trenches would part ways to let them run through as fast as they could. Also, if you sort of saw a man running in a direction not where anyone else was going, sometimes they'd assume he's abandoning the troops, and they could even shoot one of their own men, just because they had to be very intense back then. But wearing this armband also made them very big targets from the German forces as well. Imagine this path wouldn't have been here, of course. Also, the men were trained to find low ground. So if you see, there's sort of a little bit of divot in this area. So this was the lowest ground. Also, where the barbed wire was cut in one of those areas where it bottlenecked out, this is sort of where it would have led as well. So, as the Newfoundlanders came into the field, there's about 780 men who came into the field. The next day, there was only about 63 men available for roll call, so that was about an 86% casualty rate. So in 30 minutes, they lost almost all of their men just on this battlefield. So they had a lot of things that were against them. One of the biggest things, they were carrying a backpack that was about 60 pounds. So you can imagine you can't run very fast with a bag that is 60 pounds on your back. Also, on the back of their backpack, they had a shiny metal triangle. So, if they turned to try and run back to the front lines, this shiny metal triangle gleamed with the light, and the German soldiers actually shot at anything that was really moving, so they could have been very easily targets.
Everybody, we need to thank someone special for organising this trip that you've all come on this weekend.
I only have one thing to say. I did sincerely mean it. You've been a terrific group to be out with. I really shouldn't say lots of fun, because obviously we had the respect element. You've worked really hard. You've taken in all the facts we've given you, which was the point of the exercise. But you've actually been very pleasant company as well. Oliver, what did you think of the weekend?
I thought it was really interesting because it really puts in perspective the amount of people and casualties that were suffered throughout just the battles. Because on paper you can hear the numbers, but you don't understand just how big of an event and travesty it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just incredible. Like the museum especially as well. You know, not just honouring people, but learning what they experienced as well was yeah, it's really important. It's really special. Yeah.
One thing that stuck out in your mind about the whole weekend, just one thing.
I've said it a lot already, but honour massively, because you know, honouring the people that have fought in the war, and honouring the people that have experienced such cruelty and you know, shocking, like, you know. So yeah, definitely the one word to describe it is honour or respect, because it's like immediately you've seen all the graves. So yeah, yes.
Well done.
Absolutely incredible. Yeah.
Have you enjoyed the weekend?
I most definitely have. It's been really interesting to discover more about the Somme, which I definitely did not know before, and really get an insight into how awful it actually was.
Yeah.
And hearing figures and stuff like that in the classroom is one way, but when you actually see all of the memorials, you do get an insight to what it was actually like, and the figures turn into something very real very quickly.
When you were reliving the start of the Battle of the Somme and all the bombs like went up in the air, and you kind of just look around, you see a massive crater just laying there. So that's when you realise how big it actually is.
Right.
So I don't think you could have, if a teacher told me how big it was in like kilometres, I'd be like, wow, it's quite big. But I come and I see it and I'm like, it's pretty huge.
Pretty big, wasn't it?
Scary.
Maybe like going to all the trenches, seeing what like soldiers were actually in during the battles, and like understanding what their living conditions were really like, and seeing, and like then going to the cemeteries and seeing like how many soldiers could never be identified and things.
And I think the whole trip has really put into perspective the numbers, because like you're just told like 72,000, but not until you stand there and you see all the graveyards do you actually realise how many people that actually is, and all the people connected to them. Because it's all very well seeing a number like the number 1, but then you realise that that's someone's father, that's someone's son, that's someone's brother, that's someone's uncle. It really puts it into perspective, and I think it really... I think the crater, because we learned about it in our lessons about the Somme, and it's like, oh, it's a crater. You stand there at the edge and it's ridiculous, because you can see it from just like walking up, and you can see how wide it is. But you look down, you look how deep it is, and you just realise how much that would affect. And like we were told that it would have been heard in Wales, and when the ceremony we attended, they did some fireworks, and even that was enough to hurt my ears. I can't imagine it being loud enough to be heard in Wales.
Yeah, the ceremony on the Lochnagar Crater.
Yeah.
That impressed me most.
Okay.
The letter who was read from the grandson, and he shown the cross made of a bullet, I think.
Yeah.
He got tears in his eyes.
Yeah.
As he left.
Yeah.
Yeah, that impressed me very much.
That is something. I mean, obviously we've been saying never again.
Yeah.
I mean, the actual expression at the end of World War I was this was the war to end all war. Sadly, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Things keep repeating themselves, and so we think it's very important to take the kids to look back. It wasn't just history; it's a lesson in this is what humanity can do to each other, and we should do whatever we can to stop it. Yeah. The girl there was just said that the greatest bit of the visit that we did is we did it with you.
Yeah.
And we did it with French partners yesterday. So it wasn't just British kids talking about things, it was a collaborative effort, and they've all mixed together. Your impressions on that side of it?
Yeah, we have to do more and more and more of this, so that we could get the feeling of not three nations, that we get the feeling of we are all one. There's language between us, there's no language between us, there's no nation between us, there are no borders between us. We are all Europeans. And this could be the right way to don't get anything like this what happened.
Yeah, they've got a different. They've got something more out of it.
I think they've seen it in a different light, which is making them engaged more. They've thought of it one way, and now suddenly they think, oh, it's opened up more questions and more interest into it.
Yeah.
The very first thing we did, the Lochnagar Crater, I think, seeing them like the ceremony, but then the kids going up, scattering, putting the petals out, I think that was a big moment I liked. And then when we came back late that day, when they were doing all the
prayers on the chair.
the prayers on the chairs, and everyone having the